welcome. I'm Danielle Garza, and this is another episode of Put It Together live stream. It is Saturday, March 18, 2023. Thank you for joining us. How was your St. Patrick's Day? Did you go out? Did you wear green? If you watched our show yesterday, Zodiac's Day, I was wearing my green shirt, so I hope you watched that. For everybody watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, do us a favor. Would you mind sharing this on your page so that other folks can watch along with you? If you're watching us on YouTube, scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It'll let you know every time there's a new show on the network. Remember, we got stuff pretty much all time, all week long. We got horoscopes on Monday. We've got Christian and Daniel on Wednesdays. Zodiacs, the card reading show on Fridays. And on Saturdays at noon, like today, we've got Put It Together live stream, so make sure you join us. And we've got pop-up shows during the week sometimes, so you don't want to miss those. So that's why you should hit that bell. Make sure that you're notified whenever there's a new show. On today's show, I'm very excited. The people I want on this show today, I know. Everybody always says, you're always excited. Well, because I really do enjoy my guests. I picked them to be on the show because I support them in some way. I admire them. I'm motivated by them. And these were some folks that I met early on in my ostomy life. And let me read you their bios. Hold on a second. So they're called double bagging it. Danielle, I didn't even ask her how to pronounce her last name, so I'm gonna butcher it. Gulden, I hope I said that right. Has an ulcerative colitis for over 30. Had ulcerative colitis for over 30 years. After going through nearly every IBD medication available, going to the bathroom 20 to 25 times per day, and having a toilet installed in her car. She finally kicked her disease colon to the curb in 2007. Her ostomy and her stoma named Stella saved her life and gave her her life. I need better reading glasses. Joe has been living with Crohn's disease for over 30 years. Like Danielle, he has run the gamut of medical treatments and medication. He has had a total of 4 intestinal surgeries, including 2 recessions. In 2012, he underwent a total, why do y'all give me these big words? Proctocolostomy and ileostomy. That surgeon landed him a spot alongside Danielle in the Barbie Butt Club. What's that, you ask? 2 cheeks, no hole. That butt is just for show. Danielle and Joe, I should have read this before I started. Danielle and Joe use their humor, wisdom, and stories to connect with and support other people living with ostomies and inflammatory bowel disease. I tell you, today is not the day. They believe in the power of humor, advocacy, and awareness. And I am so glad that they're here and that they laugh, because that intro was a mess right there, folks. Danielle and Joe, y'all are giving me all these white people words. How dare you?
So sorry.
I read it when you sent it to me, but I didn't reread it. Okay, that's just production errors, folks. Production errors. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited.
It's wonderful to see you, Daniel. Wonderful. Thank you.
Now, let me tell folks, it has been a long time. Like I said in the beginning, I met them early on. And for those of you that like to hear the story of how I met my guest, we met at Healthy Voices 17, which was my first year.
Yeah,
I don't know that.
That was our first year at Healthy Voices as well. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Voices?
Yeah.
So we're both alumni for the 17 generation, 2017.
Correct. Yeah.
I didn't know that was your first time. I thought you guys had been there before.
No. Actually, it might be 19. Is it 19? It might be 19.
The
pandemic has ruined this for our time zone, our time knowledge. I think it was 2019.
She's absolutely right. It was 19. Yeah.
So I'd already been there a couple of years when you guys showed up. Okay.
That makes sense. Because you were, by all means, you were a veteran when we got you.
Yeah.
You showed us the ropes.
You showed us the way.
Did I really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, for anybody who's watching who is familiar with Healthy Voices, I do pretend that I own the conference. I'm not going to lie.
Don't need to pretend. You were the mayor of Healthy Voices.
I walk around like I put everything together around there. So, yeah. And for those of you who are wondering, what is Healthy Voices? Let me give you a Healthy Voices is a annual conference put on by Johnson & Johnson and Johnson Pharmaceuticals for advocates. There's about 120 advocates from across the country from different diagnoses that come together for 4 days to talk about our diagnosis. And there's everything from cancer to mental health, diabetes, all kinds. And this is where I met Danielle and Joe. And then we meant to do stuff, and then we didn't. And then COVID, and then life, and then
Exactly.
and then we just saw each other again in 2022. And I was like, I am determined to have them on the show and get to know them better. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm like a virtual hug.
Thank you.
There we go.
Plus, these guys are hilarious. For those of you, you probably saw some videos online because you have some videos on Instagram of open mic night.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yep. We partook in 2019, and then we kind of slid in 2022 because it was World Ostomy Day.
We're always open to jumping up in front of a mic or on a stage or anywhere we are.
The grocery store.
And doing our thing. So
awareness can be anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you who like my t-shirts, I get comments on my t-shirts. This shirt, I mentioned it before the show started. This shirt was given to me when I was diagnosed. During that period. And okay, so for everybody out there, here you go. Da, da, da. Yeah, because once I was diagnosed and we had surgery, I was able to go to the bathroom again and not have issues, which I'm sure we're going to talk shit today. So we're
always.
Always. So, and we have a lot to talk about. I'm sorry.
We were saying we need a t-shirt that says "I am currently pooping."
Yeah.
But before we move on, one of the jokes that I used to say early on, and because I do a lot of health conferences, comedy at health conferences, and one of the jokes when I would talk about ostomies is like, the cool thing about ostomies is that you can poop anywhere. So if you see me being really quiet, don't bother me. And I'll be on stage with the microphone. I'll be like, okay, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You can use that. And I would tell people the only thing I miss about going to the bathroom and sitting down is that I haven't read a magazine in over 5 years. So
yeah. And I like to say that I haven't sat on a public toilet in 10 years. That's the bit as a male, I don't have to sit down. I mean, sometimes I do. It's fun, but I haven't had to sit on a public toilet in 10 years.
I would just like to. I want to jump in here. I have also not sat on a public toilet because you hover. As a lady, you got to hover.
I never knew that trick when I had a functioning butthole.
Yeah,
I would build a nest.
Well, oh yeah, no, not for pooping, for peeing.
For peeing,
you hover. So I really don't sit on public toilets either.
Okay.
Just as a female, you hover. I mean, not that I do it, but I know from girlfriends that you just kind of just let it drizzle.
You got to hover. That was taught by the great grandma, mom. It's a long lineage of learning how to hover.
Yeah, I don't know this trick. My grandma never taught me that.
For those of you watching, you can see what kind of show it is today, but we promise you we will give you information, and we are going to talk about stories. By the way, if you're watching us and you want to be part of the conversation, or you have a question for my guest or for me, please drop them in on whatever channel you're watching us. And actually, we already have a comment. Oh, hi, Charlie. How you doing? Charlie has been very open about his situation. He's a friend of mine, and he's a regular audience on our shows. He just had his ostomy late last year. So he's new to the club. So welcome, Charlie. I'm so glad that you're here watching. So this is a perfect opportunity. If you have any questions, any doubts, if there's anything that we can help you with answering, we're here for you, Charlie. So welcome. All right. So there's a lot to talk about, and I can normally tell that we might go over the hour if you guys are okay. But the question is, Danielle and Joe, how you put it together?
So how did we meet? It all starts back far long ago. So my story is as a kid, I was super healthy, and I was kind of the social event planner even since I was a small child. Never really had any health issues. Did a lot of extracurriculars, was never home, loved it, thrived on just the social life. And then all of that changed at the end of my high school years. I started having a lot of problems, and I was going to the bathroom quite a bit and urgently. And we blamed it because as in high school, when something fun and exciting happens, this was my fun and exciting thing in Lorain, Ohio. We got a fruit juice machine in the cafeteria. Like that was the joy of my
Big
life.
time.
So my mom would be like, okay, clearly you're just drinking too much grapefruit juice. Like this was a conversation that was had. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. You've always been fine. Not to blame my mom, not at all. But that was just like a weird timing. So we thought it was the Mott's grapefruit juice. Can you imagine if I went my whole life thinking that? But anyways, so I started having a lot of abdominal pains, a lot of issues. Fast forward into college life, I left the small little tiny high school and decided to go the opposite route and went to Ohio State. So I went from like a 70-person class to being on campus with 80,000 people. And, we kind of blamed like all my stomach issues on nerves or cheap beer or shitty food, all of those things that may make your gut unhappy. And I ignored it as long as I could. Things got a little bit worse. I ended up having to drop out of classes because I was so sick. There was one, I actually changed majors because I was so sick. So I went into school thinking that I was going to be a park ranger, a national park ranger. So environmental science, and loved it. And it was really hard for me. I ended up having to change it. I went to marketing, which I also really love. But it was hard, like for your health to change your trajectory in life. And one of the things was one of my classes that I needed that was one time a year was in one of the oldest buildings on campus, really long building. And my classroom was right in the middle. And unfortunately, back in the day, they only had men's restrooms on one floor and women's restrooms on the other. That's a shit your pants kind of situation, if I have to say so. Because I had to run out of there, run down a marble hallway, down some steps, trying not to kill myself. I don't know why I just didn't go in the guys' room. Like now I would have. Let's advocate for that. Yeah. The all gender restroom needed to be happening then. So I had to drop out of that class, which sucked.
Wow.
So my college went a little bit longer because of that. But I ended up, getting the career that I was probably meant to have in marketing, which I adore. But so I continued to be sicker and sicker. And finally, I went back home. They misdiagnosed me and said that I had a gluten intolerance. So for 6 years of my life, I lived being completely ill. And then back in the late 90s, there were no Whole Foods. We had like these little tiny health stores where a package of cookies that tasted like sawdust was $13. And so that's how I lived my life. So then I was eating all these vegetables, which were hurting me because I was not diagnosed properly. Fast forward, I got in with a new doctor in Columbus, and she was like, I don't know what's happening. You're going to go in for a colonoscopy now. So she signed me up. I went in, easy peasy, drank the stuff, got knocked out, found that I had a very, very, very severe case of ulcerative colitis. So I was actually really happy to get that diagnosis because then I had a plan. I could seek all the treatments that my doctors were going to give me. And so that was that. Very exciting to have that. I lived with that for, another 8 years. And unfortunately, I went through every kind of drug. So I was on prednisone, which seemed to be the only thing that ever worked for me. I did all the immunosuppressive drugs that you could do. Nothing was working except for prednisone. And a lot of us know you cannot live on prednisone for forever. And biologics weren't a thing yet for ulcerative colitis. So long story short, I made the decision to have ostomy surgery. And so I had that in 2007. And the rest is history on that. That was the greatest day of my life. Fun fact, I'm a weirdo. And I knew that this was going to be the best treatment plan for me. I mean, I'm a weirdo for a lot of reasons.
You're a weirdo for many reasons.
So many reasons, obviously. But I was so excited because I knew that there was going to be a different life on the other half of this. As you said in my bio at the beginning, I couldn't drive from Cleveland to Cincinnati where my husband's family lived because I couldn't be on that 4-hour, strip of road without having to go to the bathroom. So we bought a car. And when we were looking for it, they're like, oh, what do you need? Like a sunroof, XM radio. And we were like, we need to be able to take a seat out or we're putting a toilet in. And the guy laughed and we were like, no, we're really serious. So I don't have the picture with me, but I created this. We got the nicest camping toilet you could. We bungeed it in. I made little curtains. I had a little magazine rack, no joke. Yeah, so I lived with what we called the poop mobile, but it was great. It was peace of mind. And if we needed to use it, well, I, not even in the driver's seat. People are always like, wait a minute, what? No, it was behind the driver's seat. So I could like jump over like an Olympic sport to get back there. Could have been a good IBD Olympic sport. But anyways, so my life on the other side of ostomy surgery, I knew was going to be amazing. And I was so excited. I high-fived every single person all the way down to the OR at the Cleveland Clinic. And then they didn't even knock me out early. I wanted to see the entire room. I wanted to know what was going to be happening. And it was awesome. And when I woke up, things were good on the other side. So that's my story in a very small nutshell.
Nice. Yeah. Very nutty nutshell.
Well, true.
I took some notes to come back and ask you about it. But Joe, you want to tell your story?
Sure. Absolutely. Like Danielle, I was a very outgoing kid, very active, played little league sports, really was into theater growing up from my very first part in third grade playing Rock, the Inventor of the Wheel, all the way up through high school and playing Mr. Van Daan and Diary of Anne Frank, right? That was, I really enjoyed theater. I was a relatively healthy kid, although I was accident prone, but I was a relatively healthy kid, except I always had poop problems growing up. Nothing that ever rose to the level of needing medical attention, but I was always pooping, which is kind of ironic because I'm always pooping now with my ostomies. So, but I graduated high school. I joined the Naval Reserves and I went off for 5 months of training there. And being a major life event and basic training was a very stressful event. And that's when I really had my first flare of Crohn's disease, my first real big flare that said, hey, something's going on. You need to go to the doctor. And when I got back from all the training, my parents started taking me around to try to figure out what's going on. We first ruled out Mott's juice. I wasn't drinking any Mott's juice. But Danielle, it took her a long time to get a diagnosis. For me, it took about a year. Finally, like Danielle, the diagnosis came through a colonoscopy. And I've never heard anyone describe their first colonoscopy, Danielle, as easy peasy. But it is. A colonoscopy is, go get them, especially if you're of the age or if you're having issues, go get a colonoscopy. It could save your life.
I would say it's easy peasy because I ended up having like 30 of them between being diagnosed and having my ostomy surgery.
Yeah.
So I think it became an easy. Yeah, it was like a hobby. It became a hobby.
But let me tell people about colonoscopies. The prep for a colonoscopy, great diet. It is one of the best diets you can go on. So I'm going to put that out there. So yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is though, because I was going to the bathroom like 20 to 30 times a day, like the prep really wasn't that bad because that was my everyday life anyways.
Yeah.
If you have a burning butthole, you've got a burning butthole. It's fine.
Absolutely. It's a way of life. It's a way of life.
It's a lifestyle.
While you keep telling your story, I'm going to close my window. One of my neighbors just decided to start drilling something right now because why not? So keep telling your story. I'm going to close the window.
Sure thing. Sounds good. Yeah. So after I had my colonoscopy, got my diagnosis of Crohn's disease, I started on back at that time, there were no biologic drugs, but the main course of treatment was high dose steroids, sulfate drugs. And so I started on all of that and I got to feeling better. It controlled the symptoms, but it wasn't really controlling the disease. After about a year and a half, 2 years, I got to a point where my intestines were so diseased that I had to have my first intestinal resection. They were so scarred up. There was nothing really the medication was going to be able to do. So I had my first intestinal resection, recovered from that, and recovered from that and got back to a normal state of health. I felt good. I felt like I didn't have Crohn's disease anymore. However, surgery, as we know, is not a cure for Crohn's disease. Usually the disease will come back at the point that the intestines are put back together, the anastomosis. And so after a couple of years, the disease returned and I had to start on all the drugs again, the high dose steroids, and which I couldn't really get off of. Until 1998, I started on the first biologic to hit the market, which was Remicade, and it worked really well for me. Really controlled my symptoms as well as steroids had done. And just a little side note here, I want to go back and just make. I was not as creative as Danielle or thoughtful as Danielle. Whereas she put a toilet in her car to go to the bathroom, I did not. So if by chance you happen to be in the market for a used car, I would recommend that you not buy a 1993 Hyundai Excel teal from Columbus, Ohio, because those seats have stories to tell.
Oh my God.
Were they absorbent?
They were absorbent. They were absorbent.
The whole idea of like people were asking you, what kind of car you have? Well, I have this shitty old car. Literally.
Literally, yeah.
It's a shitty old car. It definitely was.
I'm gonna say, you guys just like the puns just run in my head. Your story. So okay, I'm gonna. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. But I started on the Remicade. However, it worked for me for a while, but eventually it wasn't really healing my intestines, and my intestines were continuing to be diseased and damaged and scar tissue. And once that scar tissue builds up to a certain point, there's no amount of medication that's going to help that. So I had to have my second resection in 2004.
Did you get a punch card?
I did.
Did you get a free tote bag?
I got a free tote bag and sandwich. It was a 2 foot long. So that was how much of my intestines they took out. I got a foot of sandwich for every foot of intestines that they removed.
I'm never going to be able to eat a Subway again.
So I had that resection in 2004, and like the first one, I recovered and I felt normal, quote unquote, normal health. Got back to my life. I was doing theater. I was doing community theater. I'd been doing improvisational comedy. I got into improv. And so I just went back about my daily life, and it all was great. But like the other resection, the disease came back at some point, had to start back on medications. By that time, there were numerous biologics on the market. I went through several. None of them really put me into remission, and my disease kept taking its course and kept damaging my intestines. And by 2012, I needed another surgery. And with the progression of my disease at that time, I had really, really, really severe rectal disease. And there was I couldn't do a resection again because of the location and the damage that was done to the rectum. You can't resect the rectum, no matter what you read on Craigslist or Reddit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like that's a Reddit thread.
That is definitely an Urban Dictionary term, resect
absolutely.
the rectum. So I had to have ostomy surgery at the advice of my surgeon and my gastroenterologist. I had to have ostomy surgery, and they decided to remove what was remaining of my colon and my rectum. And I have a permanent ileostomy as of 2012. I joined Danielle in the Barbie Butt Club, as we say. Unlike Danielle, I didn't go into the OR high-fiving everybody. I went in like deer in headlights, like, okay, this is the decision they tell me to do. This is the right decision. This is the right decision. This is the right decision. And I woke up on the other side in a very, very dark place. I was at that end of the spectrum. We all know that, coming to ostomy is a hard thing, and there's a spectrum. Some people end up on the far end in struggle. And some people end up like Danielle, and they're just right away. It's a relief, and that's great. And I had a very hard time, but I was very fortunate that I had great doctors, great medical, both physical and mental health professionals, a great loving family and friends to help me through that. And I was able to get to a point that took me about a year to fully recover physically and mentally and accept my ostomy life and realize that my ostomy life is life, and I can live it to the fullest, just like I always done. And I got back to theater, and I got back to all of the activities that I love and enjoy. And I eventually met this one.
What? Yes.
So in 2014, Danielle and her family moved from Cleveland to Columbus. We're relocating from Cleveland to Columbus.
I was very salty. Let's just talk about that. So I moved from Cleveland, where I'm from, and I moved away from the Cleveland Clinic, which very literally saved my life, because when I came out of my ostomy surgery, mine was a decision. It was an emergency. And when he got done, there's a lot of people, they either go the J pouch route or the ostomy route. And I did my research on that. And I didn't want to do a J pouch just for personal reasons. I was so done. I wanted nothing coming out of my butthole ever again. I made that point. So mine was permanent right off the bat. So I had my ostomy place and my butthole sewn shut. Where am I going with this? What was I saying?
You were salty.
Salty about the Cleveland Clinic. Thank you. So basically they saved my life. They said that I probably had like maybe a year before it would have gone really downhill. So it was a really great decision for me. So it was very salty when we had to pick up and move all my I couldn't go to my specialist anymore. Or if I did, it was a 2.5-hour drive. Not exactly the best thing. So anyways, I did what any venting human being would do. I went right to social media, and it was one of the Facebook groups that we were both a part of. And I just got on there, said, hey, I'm Danielle. I'm moving from Cleveland to Columbus. Is there anybody out there that has IBD and an ostomy? I want to join support groups because I was very active in Cleveland with the ostomy group there, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation there. And I wanted to just re-find my people. And that I needed that to move forward. So this guy jumped in and said, hi, my name's Joe. I'm in Columbus. And there's a support group that I go to.
This weirdo, and what does he want with me?
Exactly.
Now, before we continue with that part, with the next part,
sure.
We're talking about Colonel Justin. He's here watching us. So
hello.
Thank you for watching us. Such a big supporter, such a big name in the ostomy community. And Charlie made a comment that his came through anal cancer, which is how I came into my ostomy. And by the way, you talked about yours. What is it? Stella.
Stella.
Do you have a name for your ostomy?
I don't. I never, for whatever reason, that never became a thing that I needed. As far as naming, I didn't have a name for my butthole before. I didn't feel the need to name my stoma.
My child named mine. She was 3 when I had my surgery, and she actually is kind of interesting. Yeah. Interesting part of my, go ahead.
No.
Interesting part of my story is I was so excited about having my surgery and just knew that this was going to be life-changing for me. And prior to my surgery, my daughter, who was 3.5 when I had it, she knew, like even at 3 years old, she knew that this was weird. We'd only go to certain parks that had bathrooms where the like parking space was right next to it. We couldn't do so many things unless like my husband was with us because I had to run. So she knew the different change that happened. And so she was like one of my biggest advocates. She named my stoma Stella. Here's a fun fact. She was in an at-home daycare for my surgery. And as I was recovering for 8 weeks, my kid was going there and enjoying her time with her friends. And apparently she was a sharer. So she shared with everybody, again, at the age of 3, shared with everyone that mommy went to the hospital and came home with Stella. So you see that could be confusing. So when my very first day that I got to go pick her back up, my first day I could drive, the first day I could lift her, I went there and I was so excited to see the other moms. And in my time away, there was a new baby that had come. So there's a new mom. So I introduced myself. I said, oh, I'm Lauren's mom, that little one over there. She's like, oh, congratulations. She's like, oh, we just really can't wait to meet Stella. And I was like, okay. And I wasn't like into advocacy quite yet. Right. And she's like, yeah, I just can't wait to see her. And I was like, I mean, okay, maybe, like, sure. And then boom, it went off. Like, she thinks that I have an infant named Stella. And so I was like, no, I was like, actually I had ulcerative colitis. I went and I had an ostomy surgery. And I said, you know, my small intestine now sticks out of my belly. And my daughter named that Stella. And she was like, oh, so my kid started the advocacy before I even did.
Mine is Tommy. And I tell everybody I was still drugged coming out of surgery, and I had read about just the short version. Mine came through anal cancer, but it was from complications from radiation. So it was kind of like, you're gonna have to get it. Like there was really no more choices. Mm-hmm. And my joke, I was it was either that or diapers for the rest of my life, which is great because it gives you a nice butt, but it's horrible for traveling. The tables in the bathrooms don't hold adults, so it sucks that you can't use them. But so when I coming out of the surgery, I read that if you come into it kind of like in an emergency situation, to name it connects you better so that your mental healing is faster.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I came out and they're like, what are you going to name him? I'm like, Ostomy Tommy, because it rhymes. And
I love it.
Nice.
so now when people who don't know me, I'm like, I'm having issues with Tommy, they think that's my partner. I'm like, no, that's Christian. I'm like, Christian is my lover. We're having affairs. But my friends know, if we go out and I tell my friends, I got to go take care of Tommy, they're like, oh, go for it. And Colonel Justin just said that after 30 years, he finally named his kid. So
Like-
congratulations.
Like from Knight Rider? Kid,
Welcome.
as in Knight Rider? I need to know.
I would hope so. I would
I
hope
would
so.
hope so. I want to know if it has like the little red hello, Justin. You know?
Nice.
If he talks to you, I want in on that one.
Nice. I will jokingly refer to over time. I started jokingly refer to mine as Stanley because hers is Stella. So the whole streetcar named Desire, Stanley, Stella kind of thing. But then also Danielle had recorded me after one of my ostomy after endoscopy procedures, and so I was still kind of drugged up, and she got me saying
It's on
a
our
lot of weird
Facebook
stuff.
page. Pinned.
But one thing that my drugged up subconscious mind connected during that video was the fact that stomas is an anagram for Stamos.
John Stamos.
So stomas is an anagram of Stamos. So my stoma is John Stamos. It'll be John Stamos.
You guys, it'll be the best like 5 minutes of your life. You have to watch this video. He had no recollection that I even took this video until I was babysitting him afterwards. We like went to a park or something. And I was like, do you remember what happened? He's like, no, I played it. I think I peed my pants like on the park bench in the middle of the metro parks. It's the funniest thing. And he was educational, to the point, extremely funny, like, and the best farts ever. Like if you ever need a fart reel of sounds, it was hilarious. And he would stop and like his eyes would just go up and wait for the fart to end. And then he would keep talking. It is Oscar worthy.
I have to go check it out. I wish I'd known about it. We would have played it here on the show. But go check him out. It's an opportunity to go check out his Facebook. It is called My Stoma, very original. Oh, got you. Yeah, by the way, ostomies, best parts ever. Sounds like a bad trumpet solo. So okay, so I'm gonna take the conversation because there's a lot of interviews out there about the basics and the regulars and the surgeries. I'm really, because you guys have this very fresh energy and you have a very unique approach to stomas and the life. If you don't mind me, I want to go in a different direction because the potential to be angry and resentful and bitter, they're there. And as a spiritual life coach, I tell people, when you go through situations like this, you completely have all the right to have a moment of being mad and upset. And there's a couple of, fist waving moments. How did you have moments like that? And how did you overcome them?
I'll let you talk on this one.
Yeah, I definitely had a moment like that. I when I talk, I tend to downplay how dark of a place that I was in sometimes, because depending on the forum, I don't, it can be scary to talk about how dark of a place that I was in after my ostomy surgery. And I say it's scary. It could be scary for my loved ones because it's hard for them to hear how hard it was for me. But I was very, very dark. I was very depressed, very anxious. I was to the point of being suicidal. It was really, really hard for me. So I was in a very, very dark place for it's hard for me to really put through the time. All I can really say is I know that a year later, I was in a much better almost back to me state about a year later. But those early months were really, really hard and really, really scary from the ostomy specifically, as well as my health condition, realizing that Crohn's disease had taken so much of my intestines, had taken my entire colon, over half of my small intestines. It was really, really hard.
He has short bowel disease. I don't know if you didn't mention that. So
the way that I overcame that, it's a combination of things. I'd like to say that it's one thing, that it's just one thing. And I guess eventually maybe it is. One thing is getting to that point of acceptance, but to be able to quantify, like, be able to quantify that so that I can replicate that for someone else to say, this is how I got to acceptance. And so you could do it too. But I definitely had a lot of love and support, which I'm very grateful for, from my family. I have a very large family. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, loving parents, loving extended family, loving close friends. The improv community that I'm a part of here in Columbus, the improv and local theater community is very supportive, a very big part of my support system. They all helped. But as a personal thing, with all of that support, it really got me. I had to get to, looking back, like I had to get to that point of acceptance and realizing that it's a shitty choice. I would never have chosen to do this, but there are many choices in my health journey up to that point of having to have a resection, all that stuff. That life is full of decisions we have to make that we don't really like to make. But there was not going to be any changing it. It was getting to the point of realizing that I can't go back.
Right.
The only way is to go forward. And how do I do it? And why do I do it? And finding that, I think the why is maybe something to, a personal why, but then also extended why. Like I want to continue forward. I want to be here for my family. I want to be here for my friends. And then figuring out how I can do it. I learned that I could do it. I learned that all of my fears, not to say that they were baseless. I mean, there are certainly challenges to living with an ostomy. I don't, to try to make it sound like it's all roses is false. It's hard. And it can be, and it's harder earlier on, and it gets easier over time. But with all of that love and support, I was able to get to a point of where, I got to figure out how to do this. And I was able to. And once I started putting one foot in front of the other and became more comfortable, I was able to get back to me. I was lost for a good while there, but I was able to find my way back to being me and being the outgoing, loving, loved person that I was before.
Yeah, there's something very interesting you said, like acceptance is the final. Acceptance is like going back to the sandwich that we talked about earlier. Acceptance is the full sandwich that you have, but it's made up of different things. It's not, it just doesn't wake up being a sandwich. So, because for a lot of us, there's therapy and there's support groups and there's self-reflection and religion, and spirituality and whatever.
And sometimes acceptance is a taco. It's not a sandwich. It's a taco.
See, folks,
you know your audience. You know your audience. I love it.
Like, if you want to melt my heart, just say taco.
Yeah. I have to say, like, I had a different kind of acceptance. So, like I said, I was so excited about this, and I was right. My ostomy did save my life and give me back my life. My quality of life was restored. I was back at like Cleveland Indians games and outdoor concerts within about a month. So I'm a very different story. However, and this is something that we talk about mental health. And we talk about the people who come to see you when you're after your surgery in the hospital. We always really say, like, mental health needs to be taken care of as well. Whereas Joe went to a very dark place, I went to a very manic place. So I took so many years of, like, 14 years of being sick. So before I was diagnosed, 6 years of being misdiagnosed, and then the time that we couldn't get it right and couldn't get me fixed. I went like apeshit crazy on wanting to do everything. And because my IBD took away so much, I would always want to make plans, but I canceled them 90% of the time, not because I didn't want to go, because I was feeling like hell, or the place didn't have a bathroom, so many different things, or there's people I didn't want to explain myself to. So when I came out of my surgery, I said yes to everything. And it was kind of bad because I didn't allow myself to heal as much as I probably should have, which is bad. And you need to follow those directions when they say, take the time to heal, even if you're feeling so much better. So I had to learn that I couldn't do 15 different social events in a week, even though I wanted to, because I felt like I needed to make up for those over almost a decade and a half. So that was my weird, I was overly accepting, I guess you can say.
Because it's interesting that you're both here now, but the surgery, how it is, I mean, it's like that for all of us. Everybody has a different but one of you went into this jail of emotions,
Mhm.
and Danielle, you came out of this jail, particularly with the 3-year-old. I mean, you wanna be there for your kid, and I think that's where, and I'll humbly put myself in the group. There's a group of us that are like, okay, I no, I don't want to look like a piggy bank with a hole in my belly. Like that was not part of my what do you want to be when you grow up list.
Yeah.
But like for me, I realized that that was the answer to really fulfill my dreams and reach my goals in life. And it was like, if you don't have the surgery, you're gonna have to be home all the time. And I was like, "Ugh, fine, like I'll do it. But you're not taking away my dreams and goals, damn it. I'm still
Right.
gonna, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And for me in that post-surgery time of getting to that acceptance, and that part of getting that acceptance was realizing that you can't go back. At that point where I obviously had the surgery. There was no reversing it. Everything was taken out. I couldn't be reconnected. It was all gone. So my choice was to either, stay in the dark place, and stay angry, stay grieving, stay sad, not living my life, or it was to figure out how to be me again. And that was it was certainly a process. And one thing that I will say, because I know a lot of times, because here we are already at this point of acceptance, and we're living our best life, and we're out there happy-go-lucky, bags out, literally, figuratively, and just being crazy. But I know me of 2013, I would have punched me of right now in the face and said, shut the hell up, because I was nowhere near that. And it's okay to feel that. It's okay. A lot of times in the advocacy, it can come off as, well, you got your ostomy. It saved your life. You should be happy. You should be happy. It saved your life. And you don't feel that. And you can't expect someone to feel that right away.
I remember being told you should be grateful and wanting to slap, it was a nurse, wanting to slap that nurse and be like, if eyes could have killed, I would have killed her in that moment. I was like, unless there were a couple of choice words that went through my head, but I'm like, unless you're laying here in bed, waking up, looking down and going, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Do not tell me when to be grateful. So for anybody out there, if you know anybody who's going through the situation, please don't say that. I want to read this before we go on to the next segment. Charlie says, I was devastated when I found out about my cancer. A good friend of mine supported me through my chemotherapy and radiation treatment, and my doctors recommended me to get an ostomy surgery, which I rejected at first because I was hanging on to that little bit of hope that it wouldn't be necessary. Got you, Charlie. I'm right there with you. But after experiencing some uncomfortable symptoms and discovering that Dan had one, I finally decided to do it, and it's not as bad as I initially thought. It took a while to get used to it at first, and the rest didn't come up, Charlie. But yes, I think we all. I was suggested to get my ostomy surgery in October of 2015, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that before the holidays. And I went through Christmas. I traveled in January to Florida, from California to Florida, on diapers, yeah. And
that's a common thing when you go to Florida, though. I mean,
diapers, yeah. I was like,
especially if you're an astronaut.
People were like, "Are you moving here?"
Yeah.
They're like, "Are you moving here? Are you retiring?" I'm like, "Well, it depends." And and then I came back, and I was like, I went to my doctor. I said, "No, this is not life. Like,
Right.
let's do the surgery." But I went into it not screaming and yelling, but there was some hesitation. I mean, there were definitely some claw marks on the walls as they were taking me. But then, yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I know it's there, which is my next question. Are there moments where you just like forget?
I don't ever think of mine anymore because I don't feel it. My skin's really healthy. I mean, unless I have a whistle fart, which you can kind of feel. So you can put your, we sometimes say,
is that the train?
Like,
no,
after our infusions, we'll go get Chipotle and then we'll be sitting here eating. And of course, sounds happen after you eat. And it's like an ostomy fart orchestra.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. That ostomies know when everything's really quiet.
Yes.
Like they have the perfect timing. Quick story. I was at the dentist's office and there's a lady and there's me and it's early in the morning because I like going to the doctor early and they were playing the news. And just when the news went to commercial and it's that quiet and everything got silent, Tommy decided to just trumpet. And the lady looks over at me because people expect the smell. People want to, and she just looked at me and I go, oh, it's my bag. And she kept looking for a bag.
It's your Gucci.
Like, I don't know if she expected like those Warner Brother cartoons, the little frog, come on, my darling, come on. Something to happen, but she never got it. But the receptionist who knows me, she knew and she laughed. And when I walked in, she goes, she didn't get it. I'm like, no, she didn't get it. So it's just good. So anyway,
but
go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say on that, like, do you ever not think about it? Like that kind of thing. You just forget that it's there. Early on, obviously you couldn't. Early on, you woke up and it was 24/7. You were thinking about your stoma, thinking about your bag. And I remember voicing that to my brother. And he said, he was encouraging me, obviously, and consoling me. And he asked me about my elbow. He's like, how often do you think about your elbow? You don't, right? And he said, eventually, that's what it'll be like. It'll just be another part of you, like your elbow. And that's exactly what it is today. It's just, just like my elbow. It's a part of me. It's there every day. I don't even think about it. Even when I'm caring for it, I'm not really thinking about it.
Yeah. And just for those who are watching and don't know much about ostomies, right after surgery, your stoma is like larger. It's more unpredictable. In our cases, we have ileostomy, so our colon is completely gone, but we still have our small intestine. I have like 15 feet. He has 5. But it's much noisier at the beginning, and you're more aware of it at the beginning because you're healing. And then once your body starts to adjust and things heal and less swelling, you really truly just kind of forget about it until you hear a whistle fart in the silence of a room, to which then I just bow.
or okay, I'm gonna talk before I don't want to get too gross because the potential to get really disgusting.
I love it. We're here for it.
So for those of you that are not really aware, like what you go to the bathroom in a bag, what? So I'm gonna show you just the 2 basic components. This is pretty much what everybody uses in different versions of it when it comes to ostomies, ileostomies. So they call this the wafer. Most of the time, I call it the base. It's the base. So this gets peeled off, and there's a sticky part, and this goes against your skin. So I don't know if you guys can see it. There's a little ridge there. These are the bags, and there's different versions. There's clear ones. There's kind of paperish looking ones. These are plastic with an opening. I like these with an opening because I run around a lot, and it's just easier to use. They have Velcro. You're like, is it just with Velcro? Yeah, it just rolls up and you tie it up. And then obviously this is on your skin and then clicks. And I do have this hard time on my own, so don't think this is weird. Okay, there we go. And it just clicks. So this is against your body and this hangs. Some people use coverings for them. Like people have like the different materials, coverings, Supermans or whatever. I don't use it, but I use the wrap. I use the wrap around. People have seen it. I call it my bra. It's just part of my daily. Like I put on my jeans, I put on my bra, and it just puts everything down. But I do a lot of public speaking, so it's just easier to. I don't want my ostomy to be my presentation card. But people use all kinds of different coverings. So you can go online, and Ostomy Secrets is one of the great companies that I go to.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of products, so go check them out. But for those of you who are wondering how, this is the basics. I mean, this is the basics. Again, there's different versions, different styles, but we all kind of use the same thing. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Charlie says, I had issues with my ostomy at first, mainly it detaching, but eventually found a solution to the problem. Stay hydrated. Excellent. And don't go to Florida in the summer. Sweaty places, not always a good thing. Mine's the clear ostomy. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So
And, just a note on that, Charlie, I encourage anyone out there who is having a problem, who is struggling, you're early on with your ostomy, or even if you've had your ostomy for 10 years and you're having problems, keep working to find a solution. If you have the option to contact the WOCN, who specializes in ostomy care, they have years of experience, and it's frustrating because you have to go through that trial and error, but you can find a solution to if you're having a bag wearing problem, leak problem, whatever may be going on.
Yeah, and if you're in an area where you don't have a lot of ostomy nurses, they actually have telehealth ostomy care now, where you can literally change your bag and there's a nurse telling you exactly what you need to do. So there's plenty of options to get education tips, tricks, everything.
I'm looking for some more website information to share, but relationships, because we were all in relationships when we had our surgeries. How did it go? Okay, I'm going to put myself in the hot seat first. I was with my partner, Christian. We were together about 3 years when I was diagnosed with cancer. So we were going into our 4th year when I had my surgery. And although the relationship on the top, kind of like a creme brulee, the top part was like hard. It was good. Like it was solid. But the bottom for me, but I think it was more me putting pressure on the relationship and how I perceived him to accept me. Like, that made the difference, and it caused a lot of issues in the relationship. How was it for you guys with your relationships?
So for me, my husband and I met in college. So he had only ever known me as very sick. He'd never known me as healthy Danielle from the beginning of high school and before. So for us, it was an easy switch over because he had to witness and be my caregiver of me being, having bloody diarrhea 30 times a day. Having to drive through somebody's yard to get me to a bathroom, to go to the bathroom. So for us, it was like a very easy transition. And then I'm an open person with everything, with my health, with everything. So I really didn't care about walking around with my ostomy bag out. I mean, my daughter, she would draw pictures of it because, it was something to me that changed my life. It saved my life. And that's why I was able to have this wonderful relationship with my family. So for us, it was not a big deal. And I think thinking about it, and I know I'm a little bit out there, I'm overly confident a lot of the times, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but I think if I was even in a dating situation, I think I'd still be kind of out there. I didn't have to do that, but I think I'd be like, yeah, if you can't accept it, see ya. But I, fortunately, my IBD was far worse than me walking around with an ostomy bag. Even in any intimate moments, it's much better than having to run to the bathroom.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll echo that from the standpoint of, I'm single. I'm a lifelong bachelor, but I'll say from a dating experience prior to my ostomy, it was definitely a Crohn's. Crohn's was by far worse than dealing with the ostomy as far as my own personal anxiety about being with someone in any kind of dating or intimate situation. And after the ostomy, and this is an interesting thing that I found personally, getting to the point of acceptance with my ostomy has made me accept myself so much more than I was before. I have so much confidence right now after the ostomy surgery. Plus, I'm almost 50, so who gives a shit about anything anymore, right? So, a lot of that when you're talking about going into a relationship, I understand all of the anxiety that ostomy can provide. But if you accept it and you accept yourself, it does make it easier in negotiating that, quote unquote, with someone else. Because I'm completely out there. I'll whip off my shirt and show my ostomy to a stranger or anyone on Tinder or wherever. I'm my bag's out all the time. So
you go, Daddy. Just throw it out there for the people.
He actually did a play where he was only in boxers with his ostomy out the entire time. So
Wow.
Yeah.
I did a photo shoot for my 2nd anniversary Oh, by the way, my surgery was April Fool's Day, April 1st. Yeah, my surgery was on April Fool's Day. Just to put it out there. That's part of my story. I was diagnosed on Cinco de Mayo with cancer. My last day of chemo was 4th of July, and my surgery was on April Fool's Day. So and then my birthday is December 26th, right after Christmas. So I've got all the holidays covered. All of them.
I love that. Here, I have a fun. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I have a fun fact too. So my ostomy surgery, this is great. It was April 30th. So I said I lost an asshole, and his birthday is April 30th. So I said I gained an asshole. Just kidding. You're my best friend.
Slightly different years.
But here's another fun fact. So this year it'll be my 16th stomaversary. So a sweet 16. And it's also his 50th birthday. So we're going to have some kind of hilarious birthday celebration.
Yeah.
And I wanted us to talk about relationships because I get asked sometimes by folks, I get messages or emails by folks who are going into surgery who are single. And it's a reality. Like, hey, what's going to happen afterwards? And I tell them, well, first of all, you don't have to worry about pooping anywhere because you're well, unless, okay, we can talk about explosive bags exploding in a little bit before we go. Because I have one from Florida. It's always in Florida.
It's always Florida. We love you, Florida. We love you.
All the bad accidents that have happened with my ostomy have happened in Florida. But Charlie says that his is November 8th. So yeah, I celebrate mine too. I celebrate his birthday. But folks that message me, the main concerns are activities, relationships, and how to take care of themselves. And I'm like, I think I've done more stuff post surgery because before with the cancer, I was, for those of you, I had anal cancer right on my sphincter and it caused a lot of problems. So I couldn't go to the bathroom normal and it was painful. So it was difficult to go anywhere. Kind of like the opposite of Danielle. I wouldn't go anywhere because I couldn't go to the bathroom. I was always bloated and felt horrible. Yeah. And post, I'm like, nothing stops me. Nothing stops me. I'm still in a relationship. We're both in therapy because he was my caregiver as well. And it was easier. It was very easy for him to fall into caregiver position, but it was very difficult for him to go back into partner relationship. And it took therapy and it took several years. I mean, this is 7 years now. And it's taken us a while for him to not feel like he needs to take care of me all the time.
Right.
So for those folks out there, just to put it out there. Let's talk. If you go online and you Google ostomy, there is endless pages of information on what to do with an ostomy. But do you have any particular tips that you've learned?
Oh, I most definitely do. And I'm sitting right next to my little handy backpack that I have all the time. So for 8 years of ostomy life, I am very lucky. I have I'm the poster child of a really good stoma. So I've been very fortunate not to have many issues. I've not had to deal with very many leaks. So I was very cocky for 8 years and I never had any supplies with me. So we like to call this the Great Zoo Incident. Picture this. Okay, let me begin the picture here. So I had just started a new medication that unfortunately made my output very, very explosive and liquidy, just like that week. I also decided I had the day off. I went to this Columbus Zoo by myself, no kid, no husband, I just wanted to just be. I went and swung by Starbucks and got the bucket-sized latte. So you mix the bucket-sized latte with the new medication. Shit show, right? A literal shit show. So I am moseying about. I am in the furthest corner of the zoo from my car when I feel a strange warm and then cold sensation. And I was like, well, this is very intriguing. So I'm at the polar bear exhibit and I'm like, is it just cold air? What is happening? So I run to the bathroom and totally the bag, somehow there was a leak underneath the wafer. And it is I can't even describe. So luckily it was an old school bathroom with the paper towel. So I dug through my thing. Of course I didn't have any supplies because I'm a dumbass. got the old school paper towels. I shoved them in there. I took my little hoodie, wrapped it around me, and I'm like power mall walking of like the moms of the 80s. Okay. But it's during the day. So it's when all of the like parents who aren't working are with their children who are in strollers or like 3-year-olds. And it was like the old school Frogger game. I was dodging toddler. One ran right into me. I grabbed his skull and pushed him away. He was stoma height. Like it would have been awful. I'm telling you. So I get to my car. I have a towel in there. I'm safe. It's fine. But I'm here. You can see it's very well loved. I don't need to use it very often. I now have an emergency kit in every backpack, every tote bag, every purse, every winter coat in my car, in my husband's car. Probably have one in your car. I don't even know. That is my biggest tip. Never, ever go without your supplies, and make sure they're like, you have a bag to throw it away. I have like these really nice paper towels. I have everything that I need. I do a cut to fit. So it's cut already where I can just easily put on a change. I have a stoma genie. So if I am having a poop fountain everywhere, guess what? That's going to go over and contain it. So I'm not pooping all over the place at the Columbus Zoo. So that is my biggest takeaway of don't have a Frogger Columbus Zoo day. Have all of your supplies with you in a handy dandy little, very well loved Ziploc bag because it can happen.
How about you, Joe?
Learn from me.
My one tip that I like to give is a very specific tip, and it's specific to anybody who's dealing with high liquid output. And that is, I have very high output because I have short bowel, but you can have higher liquid output for any number of reasons. Mm-hmm. But and that tip is if you're having over a liter and a half, 2 liters of fluid output in a day, especially if you're dealing with it overnight, I recommend getting the high output bags. Especially if liquid is your main output, liquid-ish, maybe you can get to an applesauce kind of thing. But I definitely need it because of the volume that I put out. But I know there are people who are at lower level volume, but they're still high that they could benefit from it because it's bigger, and overnight it can hold up to a liter of fluid, right? Oh, and wow. So like overnight, you don't have to. It really reduces the number of blowouts and stuff you would have overnight. And even if it's something where you use a 2-piece and you want to pop a higher output bag on overnight and then wear a smaller, roll up Velcro bag during the day, great. But really look at and consider doing that because it'll save you so many headaches from having blowouts overnight. Plus, dealing with liquid output, I find it easier to empty the high output bag because the high output bag, and I wish I had one right here to show you, it has like a little spout at the end. Instead of that Velcro roll up that Danielle showed, it has like a little spout. You uncork the plug and you empty it. It's just like a pastry bag, you empty it, it pours right out in the toilet, no mess, no muss, no fuss, and you just wipe the tip off a little bit of tissue, put the cork back on, and it's so much easier when you have high output to use that type of bag.
I wanted to read this. I have accomplished more in life as an ostomate compared to my life prior to February 28, 1993. Wow, that's awesome. Reason being is that I was no longer sick with 21 years of ulcerative colitis. Ostomies save lives and enhance quality of life. Of course, yeah, they do. Stoma genies are great. I need to know. This is the first time I hear about stoma genies.
Oh, let me tell you. Listen, here it is. You get the one for like the size of your ostomy. You pop off a little black tip. You put it over your stoma, and it has like a really super absorbent lining. It doesn't gel up and clump up. It stays in there, and so you can then just wash. You'd like put it there over your stoma, and you can wash all around it. Especially if you have to do like crusting or something like that. If your skin's like compromised. And then you can let it dry and everything goes in there. And then for these, if you do a 2-piece, you can put your wafer right over it. So you never have like the poop trickle or pee trickle. And then, for 1-piece, you just kind of make sure it's stopped and then put it back on. These things have saved my life, and they're in every emergency kit because, I used to use like a half a roll of toilet paper, paper towels, or I would be pooping on my floor, pooping on my toes. Like one time when I went to Kroger and I looked down and there was poop on my toe while I was waiting to get salami at the deli. I'm hoping everyone thought it was mud, but you never know. Anyways, these little things are the best.
I have to look into it because I remember Charlie says, I remember I ate something that didn't agree with me and my bag was filling up halfway and it went on all night into the next morning. And thank God it didn't detach. Dude, Yes. Okay. So here's my. Okay. Well, my, yes, definitely carry. I in my suitcase, in my bag. I learned always because I'm on the go a lot, especially summer days. Here in LA when it gets a little hot, always carry extra supplies. Um, always the bag. Yeah. I used to have the closed bags, and I didn't like them, the one use ones, because I run around a lot and it's not convenient. Uh, my tip would be, because Charlie just kind of alluded to that, um, post chemo. I don't know if anybody, out there who went through chemo and radiation, post chemo and radiation, there are foods that I couldn't eat anymore that I could after, like pork and cheese were not my friends anymore. Although I love cheese and I love carnitas, which is all pork. I did not realize this early on, and it caused a lot of problems because I would go to restaurants. So my tip is, if you are, always carry lactose pills, especially if you go into a restaurant and they don't put all their ingredients out. If you even have the notion that there might be any butter or creams in it, like I just put one in because it saved a lot. Okay, so here's my horror story. So for those of you that like, I do a lot of
Florida, right? This is the Florida one?
Okay, I'll tell you the Florida one after off the air. It's disgusting. But there was one. There was for those of you that have followed me for a long time, know that sometimes I do interviews live with a group of people or whatever. So this one's on YouTube, so you can find it on my page. You will never know what happened, but I knew. So I'm interviewing this theater group. They're about to put a production up, and I went in to interview them during rehearsal. And it's this old building here in North Hollywood. We were recording, they were rehearsing in this room that was next to the bathrooms. And there was a vent that connected the bathrooms to the room. And there was, every time somebody went to the bathroom, there was always a little wolf or something. So I'm sitting there before, and this is why I say about the pills, before I had met a friend of mine for sushi. And sometimes there is some creams in the sushi. I did not realize that this particular one had it. So I'm eating, and I love sushi. So I'm doing the interview, and I'm like, so tell me the director and tell me about your character. And all of a sudden, I just felt the gurgle. And I was like, shit. And I was like, keep going. And we were live. I was live on the air. There's no way of saying, hey, hold the microphone, I'm running to the bathroom. So I keep talking. All of a sudden, I just feel like, if you know that moment where you feel the wafer detaching and you know it's detached and you're like,
all three of our eyes are
yeah. Luckily, I'm wearing the strap, which I'm wearing right now, my bra, and so it holds everything in place. But I knew, and then of course Tommy was like,
I'm sweating.
Yes, and Tommy was like, "Oh, freedom! Yes!" So this guy's like, "This is time to let out all the gases, and why not?" So I could smell, and there was a moment where I'm recording, and I'm like, "Yeah," and you could tell that they're smelling something, and they keep looking up at the vent, and I'm like, "Yeah, it must be the vent."
Totally the vent, 100% the vent.
Why do they do that? So I'm interviewing them, and right now I'm sweating thinking about it because I'm interviewing them, right? And I'm sweating, and I'm like, and I still have like 30 more minutes of show to do, and I keep talking, and I'm like, just keep going. Then finally we're like, okay, thank you everybody, have a good night, end of show. I run to the bathroom, I look, and surely enough, there's a mess now. Clean it up as best as I can. They want to take me out to dinner. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta get home. Sorry. Yeah. And my friend wanted to come. One of them was a really good friend of mine. He wanted to give me a hug, and I'm like, I shake his hand, and he looks at me. He goes, "What's up?" I go, "Tommy." And he goes, "Oh."
That's so good that he knew Tommy. Like that, I love that. Like secret. It's like a secret handshake, right? You just Stella.
I ran in the car, and I get home. I was only like 20 minutes away from Christian's house, 25 minutes. I run in, and he's like, "How did it go?" I'm like, "Tommy, in the bathroom." The code word, don't touch it right now. But if any of you are ever interested, go to my YouTube page. There is a interview that I did to this theater group. You'll find it. I can't remember what it's called, but if you find it, now you know. The
We'll
look
see.
of,
Yeah.
yes,
We're gonna know. We're gonna know. We'll know
The
the exact. We could probably figure the exact like second minute on it. We'll be like, that's it.
that's when it happened. Yeah, yes. Oh, talk about improv moment. Just like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so,
You yes the shit out of everything. Yes, for sure.
and that's when the 30 minutes just got longer.
Oh yeah.
Longer and longer. Yeah. So we've been talking a little bit about relationships, and we've been talking about coming out of stressful moments. Where are you now? Where is your life now? And if you could talk to you right before the surgery, what would you tell yourself?
I'll let you go.
I would if I could talk to if I could talk to myself right before the surgery, I'd say strap in, boy. It's going to be a little bit of a ride, but you'll be okay. You'll be okay. That that's cliche that's kind of cliche, but yeah, everything's going to be, you're going to be afraid, but don't. There's no need to be. You've got everyone here to take care of you. You'll be able to take care of yourself, and you're going to be in a much better place 10 years from now.
I want, if we have a time for a short Joe story, I think you should illustrate it with your improv retreat story. I think this really shares how you went from being terrified to living your life.
Sure.
This is a good one.
This is. I do improvisational comedy. There's an improv retreat that some friends put on, which is basically adult summer camp, and you go and it's 200 adults playing in the woods, doing improv theater games and having a good time, party, right? I had my surgery in 2012. 2013 was my year of healing. 2014, I was finding my way back into my life. And in 2014, I decided I'm going to go to this retreat. Let's do it. But it's my first trip with my ostomy. Of course, it's over like a 4-day weekend. I pack supplies for a month and a half. I drive up to Wisconsin from Ohio, go to this retreat. And I was so nervous about my ostomy. I was so nervous about people hearing my stoma. And of course, I was hyper aware of everything with my ostomy. And at that time, I was still wearing oversized clothes, that I didn't want anybody to see my ostomy, know that I had an ostomy. Anytime it made noise, I was immediately putting my hands over my ostomy. I go to this retreat, and it's workshops and hanging out, and I pretty much kept to myself. I had my own room kind of separate. I would go do my workshops, go to meals, but I didn't really mingle too much. Flash forward a year after that, which is part of my progression in acceptance of my ostomy, but it's also part, I had met Danielle by that time, and just having that connection of a close friend, developing that friendship of someone who fully gets it, another ostomate who totally understands. I go to that retreat the following year. The Sunday morning that we're leaving camp, I'm sobering up in the lake in my underwear with 4 or 5 other people. We'd stayed up all night, and we were doing a sunrise dip in the May frigid waters in Wisconsin. And the last thing I remember before because I blacked out. I blacked
Not
out
recommended.
that night. Not recommended. Do not try this at home.
You drank some mead.
But I'd imbibed in several substances, mead, weed. I was much more social this time around than I was the previous year. But the last thing I remember before that blackout period over the night occurred was standing on the balcony of this cabin surrounded by who knows how many other people and saying, "No, it's true. I don't have a butthole." So
a lot of difference a year can make.
I grew a lot in a year. I grew a lot in my acceptance of myself and my ostomy, and was.
I also like how you blame that on me. That's fun.
Yeah.
Get yourself.
I don't think I've ever heard a man say that in public anywhere ever. But now, so where are you today?
I'm in a great a great place. I mean, I'm living, take pandemic last 3 years aside, as far as how that has uprooted life and stuff, but I'm doing everything that I want to be doing, family wise, life wise, theater wise. I've done, my health is in a good position. I really believe having my ostomy has really positively impacted my Crohn's. I still have Crohn's disease. It's in remission now. And I think in large part, this is me talking, not doctors and science, but I believe in large part it's my ostomy has helped me get to that position. So I'm living the best life, that I have ever lived in the 30 years that I've had Crohn's disease.
Yeah. And same with me. Like somebody had said earlier, I do more now with my ostomy than I did prior to with IBD. So I'm still going out there and trying new things, and, sharing my story is a huge part of it, because boy, girl, Crohn's colitis, a bad space afterwards, a good space afterwards. Like, we really want to go out there and share. And that's what we do as Double Baggin It. That's why we've created our advocacy and our awareness. And one of the things we say is we're really out there rocking out with our bags out. We're sharing our stories. And, maybe it's going to take somebody a while to share their story, and maybe they'll never do it. But we want to be the voice, because we can, to get out there and just show what can be on the other side. And we like to say, and I'm probably going to butcher it because I haven't said it in a while, but help me out with the bag. Hold on. Why didn't I write this down?
It's okay to hide your bag,
but don't let your bag hide you. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So that's what we say about that. And that's any chronic illness as well, right? It doesn't have to define you. Do your thing. But yeah.
Normally there is a moment of words of wisdom to share with the audience, but I think that's the best words of wisdom I could have asked for. You've given us so many tips today that I think that's a perfect words of wisdom. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you can hide your bag,
but don't let your bag hide you.
I think that's beautiful words of wisdom. I'm sharing your website. Make sure you go check them out at doublebagginit.com for more information. I follow them I follow them everywhere, but I particularly follow them on Instagram. So make sure you check them out on Instagram. We're almost done, but I wanted to share a couple of things that I pulled up. You might remember this little picture.
Yay!
Yeah.
It's the Ostomy Squad. I love it.
Yeah.
That was our first meeting.
And hold on,
This is like Succession, but no buttholes.
I love this.
Succession.
There it is.
Yeah.
We're rocking out with our bags out. Aw.
Rock on.
That makes me so happy to see that. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, if I had one more tip, go find your people. Go find your ostomy tribe, whether that's in an online support group or an in-person support group, or through any of the ways, any social media platforms. Social media can be bad and good, but I will say that there are so many great places to meet people, in their journeys, wherever they are. And yeah.
And for everybody, also another website, go check out ostomy.org for more information, because there is in Houston this year. It'll be August 10th to the 12th, which I'm filling out my application for a scholarship. But August 10th to the 12th in Houston, which is my last home. I moved here from Houston. So,
oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so I would love to go back to Houston and do that. Ostomy Awareness Day, but this year it is October 8th, I believe, which is this first. It's the
first Saturday, I think.
The Saturday of October. Which,
Yep.
Let me look at my calendar really quick. October 7th.
Yeah,
So,
and that's a great thing to get out there and do awareness, and however you want to do it. We usually go back to the scene of the crime at the Columbus Zoo. We usually get our T-shirts, we get our little run, the bibs. We're not runners, but we'll walk. And so we go around, we put them on, and we actually stick ostomy bags on statues, on posters, everything, just to kind of we call it ostomy bombing. We raise awareness. Some people give us a weird look. Other people ask us, what it is. And we explain, what it is and how it's changed our life. And that's how we do our Ostomy Awareness Day.
are you reading that, Joe?
I am. Yeah. Mr. Teeter Totters. Absolutely.
That sounds like a good nickname. And also, I wanted to, if you go to the website, ostomyawareness.org, before Ostomy Awareness Day, there's t-shirts that you can buy to support the cause. So make sure you get your t-shirt. I think I have a t-shirt for every year so far so I love it. We're down to the last. I thank you for sticking around 30 minutes extra.
We love this.
I just knew that with two of you, there's going to be so much more to talk about and so much more to discuss. Oh yeah, here we go. Humor is the best advocacy for osteoarthritis. Yes, yeah. I tell people, like with anal cancer, one of the beauties of anal cancer, especially doing stand-up, is that you have access to all the butt jokes, and nobody can say no. Like you can't go wrong. I go to presentations with doctors and nurses and very serious people, and my usually go-to is I'm here to talk about anal cancer because I'm tired of being left behind. Thank you, welcome. You're all week.
Yeah, we do a Day on the Hill. Well, before the pandemic, we were doing it every year, which is the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation's big day to go speak to our legislators down in DC. And I don't have it on me right now, but our business cards are it's a picture of us in front of the Capitol, and then it has all of our information on it. But if you flip it over, it's caricatures that my daughter drew, and it says he has Crohn's disease, she has ulcerative colitis, they both have permanent ostomies, and it says, and as we go by, double bagging it, two best friends without buttholes. So when we see these like senators turn it over, they're like, and we're like, yes, exactly. And one of them, every time we've gone several years in a row, one of the staff members was like, she's like, I don't always keep everybody's business card, but yours has been hanging up for 3 years. So I was like, yay, we're doing something. So if you got to, use the word butthole, you got to do it. We take pride in that. That's our title.
I was at the Advancing the Science of Cancer in Latinos conference in San Antonio about a year ago. And it's an every 2-year conference with all these doctors, international doctors, researchers, scientists, very uptight, very serious people. And then they invited me to speak. And they had never had anybody talk about anal cancer. So I come on and do my presentation, which I don't know if they planned it this way, but it was two of us. The lady that spoke, Loriana, who's a marvelous person, good friend of mine now, she was talking about breast cancer and leukemia. So she goes first. And then this is while they're having lunch. So everybody's eating. And then she's talking breast cancer, leukemia. Everybody's like, oh, heartwarming, so tender, so sweet. How can we help? And then the next half hour is me talking about anal cancer. Some people put their forks down right away, and some people were still listening. But I continue to talk about just life with anal cancer and where my ostomy. At the end, everybody always wants to talk to you after you're done. I had all these people in line, and I would tell them, they would come. I was like, "Oh, Mr. Garza, great speech. Like, can we meet?" I'm like, "Yeah. You want to talk about butt stuff?" And you have these doctors from like other countries, like, I'm like, and I would purposely go, "Tell me, you want to talk about stuff?"
That's beautiful.
And there was this doctor from Mexico City who was watching me, and I was like, "Did you want to talk to me?" He goes, "I'll wait." I'm like, "Okay." So then you have this other doctor from like Germany and from the Philippines and from all these different countries, and I'm like, "You want to talk about butt stuff?" And they were like, "But," I'm like, Tell me you want to talk about butt stuff." And all of these doctors, and finally I'm done, and he comes up to me and he goes, "You're such an asshole." I go, "Why?" You get these doctors and scientists and researchers nervous. They want to talk to you, but they keep hearing you say that, and they're all nervous. I go, "Well, they need to break the stigma. Like this is
Exactly
the shame." Which leads me to my last before we leave. I just want to say, like, I'm so. First of all, thank you for coming on. You were the first people that I met with stomas, and I talked about this the last time I was like, I was so disappointed because then things got in the way and we couldn't connect, and I felt so lost for so long. And I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I don't know if I'm doing right. But I followed you and I watched y'all, and I was so excited because I feel like some people just don't accept that you are okay with something this traumatic. And I appreciate you being here so we can show people out there, whether they have an ostomy or any other condition, that you can still keep going and laugh and enjoy life, that we don't have to hide what's going on in our lives. So I totally appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
for
It's an
having us.
honor. You're touching my heart. You're touching my heart. That means so much.
Anything else before we go? Any last comments?
Oh, I wanted to say, like, if anybody is watching this has any questions, just send us a message on any of our social medias. We're not really good about updating our website. I'll say that there's information on there, but we're best on Instagram, Facebook, and then we're also bagging it at gmail.com. No G at the end of baggin.
And you can, through our website, though, even though it's not regularly updated, you can connect to us through there. There's links to our email. There's links to our socials. So doublebaggingit.com will get you to us.
Yeah, and all the socials, it's all at doublebagging it. And if you guys have any questions, as you can see, we're complete open books. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah. And we're always down to talk about butt stuff.
We are, for sure.
So,
100%.
You're my kind of people. Talk about butt stuff.
We love you. We love you.
That's going to be our food truck, Daniel. We're going to tacos and butt stuff.
Oh my
Tacos
God, that's amazing.
I will come to you for the opening of that.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Now it's in my head, like we're doing this. And also for those of you, I have an Oslo Life page on Facebook. It's geared more towards men because obviously I'm a man. I don't know about women, but if you identify as a male and you're going through issues, so we can talk about anything from sex, relationships, body images, masculinity issues, anything. Just come and join me on Facebook and leave a comment. And I want to thank again because there was a time during the lockdown when I felt very disconnected, and Colonel Justin was right there. Here it is. Humor is the best advocacy for ostomy awareness. Definitely. I want to thank him because he's definitely an OG when it comes to the ostomy community. He is so active. If you are part of the community and you see posts, they usually come from him because he posts everywhere. I don't know what group he doesn't belong to that he's posting stuff. Plus, he's been on the show too, so I've had the pleasure of interviewing him. So if you go to my YouTube page, you can find his interview and go check him out. But thank you so much for being supportive. And he sat with me a couple of times. We've had a couple of Zoom visits where he just lets me vent and get things off my chest. So he's amazing. He's amazing. Any last thing? Anything else?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. You're just a rock star.
Aww.
And thank you for wearing that t-shirt for us today. That is amazing.
Yeah, I pooped today. Yoo-hoo! I can neither confirm nor deny that I probably pooped during the show.
Oh, I definitely did.
I did.
He's tapping his.
Thank you, Daniel. That meant a lot to you. Oh, you're welcome. No, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I mean, and thank you, Danielle, and you, Mr. Teeters. That is staying. That is staying. And now we need a T-shirt that says Mr. Teeters.
I like that.
All right, I'm gonna put
you could wear it on the food truck. You could sell tots.
Tacos and tots.
This is becoming a thing.
Tater tots with chili on it.
Chocolate pudding. I
better be sitting next to that vent to mask everything.
I'm gonna put you guys in the green room, and I'll be back for you in just a second.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Take care.
For everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us. This was a little extra longer show, but I appreciate joining us. But I knew when I had them on the show, I was like, this is not going to be an hour show. For everybody who's watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, please do us a favor. Share this on your page so that other folks can watch it. Even if you're not part of the ostomy world, if you're not part of the cancer world, somebody out there might appreciate the information. So please share it with them. If you're watching us on YouTube, hey, scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It'll let you know every time there's a new show on the air. And remember, we got horoscopes on Monday, Christian and Daniel on Wednesdays, Zodiacs, the card reading show on Fridays, and Put It Together on Saturday mornings. If you or somebody you know would be a good guest for Put It Together, please send my way or send me a message on whatever channel you're watching us, and I'll get back to you. All you got to do is have a story. Where do you come from? Where are you now? And what's the story? The idea is to motivate and inspire other people to go after their dreams and goals. And I hope that today's show has inspired you to go after your dreams and goals. For now, yes, thank you, Charlie. Thumbs up to you. But for now, I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank Danielle and Joe for joining me. And hey, this is Danielle Garza saying, put it together. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.